What's up guys, Houndish here, and today we are now in 2025, so Happy New Year firstly. Wishing you guys all the best for the new year, of course, but this year will also be a very important year for Destiny 2. Of course, there are a number of reasons for that. Community sentiment has been struggling in recent weeks. Also, Bungie are changing the way that they're delivering Destiny content, so we're going to get a new expansion model this year, a new seasonal model as well, but on top of that, we have an additional episode to kick the year off. So in this video, instead of focusing on the finer details of the updates that Bungie will be bringing, like we did in my previous video talking about the Frontiers expansions. In this one, we'll break down the roadmap for 2025 as we know it, all of the content drops, important dates, content that we'll experience in the new year, the next episode, and a handful of other key details in the video. So, guys, as always, I hope you enjoyed this one. If you do find it useful, get subscribed and I'll keep you posted with more Destiny content. But now, let's get into it. And initially, heading into 2025, we're at the tail end of Act 2 for Revenant, and the final act of this current episode will drop on January 7th, 2025. So, as we normally see with episode updates, we'll get the final set of story components to quest potentially a couple of missions. Also, there'll be the upgrades for the artifact with new mods and additional season pass ranks. One of the key things for this particular act, though, is the Kel's Fall exotic mission, where we'll pick up the Slayer's Fang shotgun. So, given that there will be a number of weeks to do upgrades on this exotic, and this act will only be 4 weeks long, it seems pretty likely that the exotic will become available in the first week. And we'll probably have to complete the story progress for Act 3 in order to get into that. So keep a lookout for it on January 7th. But the following week, on January 14th, there'll be a new sandbox update for the game, mainly focusing on some minor weapon tuning. But keep in mind, we'll see the final Iron Banner of the episode on Tuesday, January 14th as well. And so between the exotic mission, a couple of new weapons, mods and things like that, for those still playing or who want to return for this act, there should be just enough content to keep us busy for that full month ahead of the launch of episode Heresy. And as Bungie have confirmed, Heresy will begin on Tuesday, February 4th, so 4 short weeks after the launch of Act 3. And in Heresy, we will of course return to the Dreadnought in some capacity. We don't know precisely how Bungie will reintroduce that, but they've also said Heresy will close the door on the Light and Darkness saga and act as a prologue to codename Apollo, so those are pretty bold claims really for an episode. And we'll get new armor sets, weapons, a similar episode structure with 3 acts, new quests, activities, and an exotic mission at some point. But another important date for Heresy is Friday, February 7th, which is when the new dungeon for Heresy will release. Now keep in mind, we still need the dungeon key for this final dungeon of the year. And in terms of other events and dates during Heresy, Guardian Games normally drops in March, so assuming Bungie bring that back, it'll be around a month and a half after the initial launch of the episode. That's also when we're likely to see Act 2 around mid-March, and Act 3 of Heresy will likely be around about the end of April. And that will lead us up to the first expansion in the new content lineup that Bungie have teased for 2025. So there's an expansion called Codename Apollo. We don't know if that's the final name yet. Anticipated to launch in June of 2025. Bungie haven't put a specific date on it yet, but the final shape dropped in June. And if the Heresy episode is going to be the standard length, that pretty much takes us up to around about June. So that's presumably when Bungie will be attempting to get this expansion dropped. And Codename should run up till around about November 2025. As Bungie have said, they're focusing on a non-linear story inspired by destinations like the Dreaming City or Metroidvanias, which will also inspire the new destination for Apollo, where additionally in that expansion, we'll see a brand new raid, new exotic weapons and armor, and kind of a standard expected expansion offering for the game, albeit potentially a little bit smaller than something like the final shape. Following the major expansions though, there'll be additional major updates which are kind of replacing seasons. So there'll be one that drops shortly after the expansion, and Bungie have said that the plan is for this to expand the new Apollo raid, adding new challenges, twists, encounters and rewards. But these additional drops will also bring new and reprised activities, events, gear and artifact mods, so they're kind of like lighter versions of seasons. And we'll get another one of these major updates ahead of the second expansion for the year, and this should drop in the fall of 2025, so probably in the early part of autumn, where again there'll be new and reprised activities, events, gear, mods, and a rewards pass. But keep in mind, also during the Apollo era, over the summer, we'll get Solstice of Heroes, and then towards the end of that expansion timeline, there'll be Festival of the Lost around Halloween. And then the second expansion of the year, which is codenamed Behemoth, should be dropping early in the winter of 2025, so likely to be around about December. And there should be content which follows this up until around May of 2026, but Bungie have said for Behemoth, the second expansion, there'll be a brand new dungeon, which will have rewards expanded to include full weapon and armor sets on par with raids. Otherwise, we don't know what Bungie's plans are in terms of the expansion itself, but once again, there will be major updates which will come alongside it. So one of them will be in the winter of 2025 with sort of season style updates, and the second will be in spring of 2026. And Bungie have said for this particular drop, they're focusing on a new raid event inspired by Pantheon, so it will eventually come back. But again, in the spring of that year, we'll get a season style update once again. Plus, keep in mind, during the Behemoth expansion period, we'll see the dawning for 2025 as well. And separate to the content updates, the brand new content, destinations, story, and rewards, Bungie have outlined a lot of system changes that they're trying to introduce alongside these expansions, like reward tiers or gear tiers for both armor and weapons, a new portal system, which essentially replaces the standard destination director, and a host of other changes which we've outlined in a separate video. And so if you want to know a little bit more about the system specifically, I'll link that video down below. But in terms of its sort of roadmap or calendar, as we understand it right now, this is what we've been told to expect from 2025 into the early part of 2026. One of the things I'm curious about is whether Bungie will hit all of those target dates, and of course whether there's the potential that they might have additional updates through the year, somewhat similar to something like Into the Light. I wouldn't necessarily hold my breath for that, given that we know there are fewer people working on Destiny right now, so the focus really will be on those expansions. Nonetheless, assuming that nothing changes, we should have at least another year of Destiny content coming down the road for 2025. So for those of you that have been wondering, there we go. Let us know your thoughts down below. I'll keep you posted, especially as Bungie start to talk about this stuff a little bit more. In the early part of 2025, it seems very likely, especially given community sentiment at the moment, that Bungie will look to find more ways to talk about these upcoming pieces of content, potentially even outline some dates and things like that. So I'll be on the lookout for that stuff, and I'll keep you guys posted when we get it. For now though, give us your thoughts in the comment section. If you found the video useful, a rating below really does help us out, and get subscribed so I can keep you posted with more content updates. But otherwise, cheers for tuning in, and I hope you guys have an awesome day.
Heresy is about the Hive Pantheon, dealing with some new interesting revelations that happen. We want to take the Hive Pantheon and shake up the snow globe. It means that we want to take the existing relationships that we see inside of it and put them through such a stress test that they come out changed.
The peeling that you'll see on the Dreadnought, the weapons themselves are peeling back to reveal a new, spooky, bony front. Since this release deals with kind of two big themes, we have two armor sets. We've had some armor sets that are kind of in the Eris theme in the past, but this is like straight up, I'm Eris's squad. And then the Hive Ship Navigator armor set explores like, what if we were driving the ship? What if we were the navigators?
If you really liked Shattered Realm, if you really liked the Coil, you're going to love this new Dreadnought activity.